actually got the ball. Good evening, Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave, Jack, and Sam. We've also got Big Mike with us tonight. Johnny is away at a funeral, so he won't be here tonight. But we do have plenty to talk about tonight. We will be talking about Daniel Levy's statement, which basically summarizes sustainability. We're going to find out what people's thoughts are on that. We're also going to talk a bit about Ange Postecoglou's interview with Optus Sport. You know, some admittance of maybe some planning errors and stuff like that, which I think, you know, fair play to the guys, come out and recognize that he could have hit it. He didn't. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about, if we have time at the end, a lot of the managers being linked over international break. Is it true? Or is it just, you know, money generating clicks? Well, we'll find out off people as we go around. But look, we're not going to waste any time. It's great weather out. We understand that, you know, people have evenings, you know, to get hold of, kids to bring places and stuff like that. So we're going to do a quick power hour. So make sure as we go along, you share your thoughts in the chat. As always, we'll bring as many up as we can as we go through it. But Jack, over to you, my man.
Well, we'll kind of just get stuck into this, these Levy statements that have come out about the financial reports of 2023-24. We're going to first get sort of started off with maybe, I think, an easy one for us, but it kind of must be asked. Daniel Levy argues that spending must be sustainable within the club's revenues. That was a big part of his statement. And so the question maybe to you first, I'll go to Big Mike on this one since he is, you know, new with us and plenty of people might recognize him from the fan shows. Is Levy's financial prudence justified, do you think, Big Mike? Or do you believe that Tottenham needs to be more ambitious in the transfer market to start competing with the top clubs? Why is Levy just so persistent about, you know, kind of sticking within the sustainability model?
Yeah, that's the buzzword right there, sustainability. Obviously, as a fan, like, I want him to be more ambitious. Like, I think there's evidence to suggest that he could have been more ambitious during the Poch regime, at least, like, the very, very bare minimum. If you're going to bring in Jose, you know, throw the checkbook at it. If you're going to bring in Conte, throw the checkbook at it. Didn't really see that kind of philosophy applied to any of those three examples there. So, yeah, I think he could have been more ambitious. If I'm going to apply some sort of balance, I guess, you know, on the flip side, we have built a £1 billion plus stadium that's still being paid off. So there's still debt there that we need to manage. It's a difficult one. Like, we are spending some money on one hand, but the money's probably being spent incorrectly for, you know, for a long period of time, maybe until recent sort of years. We've been getting a couple of things right, maybe still a couple of things wrong. So it's a hard one. Like, is he justified? Probably in his eyes, yes. As a diehard Spurs fan, no. So it's best I can answer that, really.
No, I think that's straightforward to the point. Just maybe a quick follow-up on that. Do you feel like his strategic sort of sustainability style to these signings, is it just kind of waning and waning? And do you think it's almost like reached the end of the road where maybe it's taken us far enough, you know, up the league? But, you know, the classic question with Spurs is, right, we want to be challenging at the very top. And this sort of approach, do you think has kind of just reached the end of the road with him? Like, it's not
obviously, if you're talking about sort of the Levy out context, which I'm not sure if you are or not, but like, obviously I'm a staunch Levy out. I've been that way for a very long time. I think he showed me a long time ago where his mindset is at. It's all about profit and sustainability, using his words, rather than actually trying to achieve glory for the club. So I'm not about that. I think the owner has to come in and have a clear vision and plan on how to bring success to the club, not just money into the club. So he gets an A star for his financial side of things. I have to be honest, you know, bringing in the additional revenue from you know, outside football sources, to just give it under one general label. But he gets a unmarked F-, you know, totally terrible grading for success with the club. What are we talking? Nearly 30 years, one trophy. You know, probably lucked his way to that trophy anyway, in reality. And I don't know. Like, we just keep going on this sort of roundabout, some sort of project. Obviously, Poch got lucky, you know, maybe lucky players coming in. Obviously, he's a good manager, whatever you want to say about him. Had a good era. Our expectations raised off the back of that. It went high. Like, we were competing for Champions League final. We're competing for the league. And as a fan, I generally believed that we were good enough to win something. I generally believed that. I backed our team, yeah? But now we've, you know, didn't do the Conte and Jose thing correctly. Now we've gone back full circle with Ange. Do I believe in Ange? No. I know I've gone a bit off topic here, but yeah, you know, in terms of the sustainability, yeah, no, not
Yeah.
convinced on Levy being the one to lead us forward. No.
Personally, I think good points from you, Big Mike. But for me, Sam, I do think, his sustainability approach, has taken us to a certain level, up the Premier League. It's, not forced us to, end up relegating ourselves. And it gives some sort of guarantee that Spurs will probably always be in the Premier League. But do you feel like, the fact that it's becoming more and more competitive every year, seeing Bournemouth sign great players, you're seeing, championship clubs, ending up signing, great players from other leagues. Do you feel like this sort of strategic, low cost, sort of wages, and signings, is it kind of maybe reaching the end of the road for you and what's becoming a more competitive Premier League?
Well, last year, I would have probably had a different answer to what I've got now, because I feel like in the last year we've basically been shown by the powers that be in the Premier League that they've got no cojones, let's say, when it comes to actually enforcing the rules or basically stopping people finding workarounds. And let's be honest, we're in a multi-billion-pound industry, right? And you look at these clubs like Chelsea, for example, you're seeing the stuff come out in the news today that they sold their women's team to their parent company when they should have been at a £90 million loss deficit, and they ended up being £128 million over. And there's so many instances. Like I look back to last summer and you see, I mean, maybe some of these players aren't the best example because they've actually ended up becoming decent players. Like you look at the likes of Elliot Anderson, Yankuba Minte, players that you basically never heard of or just thought, they were just going to be like Premier League journeymen in Elliot Anderson's case. And they're sold for 30, 40, 50 million pounds to other teams that are in similar positions. So if you'd asked me this last season, I'd have said, the classic like buzzwords. Yeah, we could spend 400 million and we're still inside our FFP and as much as Levy's a prick, like he's a bit of a genius. And it's like, well, actually, he's banked all of his eggs in this one basket to basically be this quote unquote sustainable club. And all of these unsustainable clubs are showing us basically, fuck off. We can do whatever we want. And
we can play around the rules.
Yeah, the league won't do anything to enforce it. I think it was interesting. One of the quotes from from his little summary of the finances. I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but there's two parts to it. The first bit is he basically says like, "Oh, we're 14th in the Premier League." And for me, that's him saying Ange has got us 14th. And then a little bit further down in the statement, he says basically, but don't worry, because effectively the stuff that I've done off the pitch is offsetting this deficit that we're in. And actually we're all right. But we can't spend too much money because we don't have it.
It's a good point, and we'll talk about some of the deflections that I think he made, in those statements. I think Sam is right, though, Dave, that Daniel Levy did sort of paint himself, that the sustainability model that he's going for is saving us, from potential further demise or further troubles, and it's everybody else's fault. But it kind of on this, right? Is maybe Levy's financial prudence justified, or do you feel like, it's starting to reach the end of the road here and he's maybe getting found out?
Well, I think the big question for me is, first of all, he's laid out his stall, right? He's clear on what he wants to do. So now there's no point of us sitting here about dreaming of big money signings coming in, seeing a player on the market, thinking Tottenham's going to go for it. It's not going to happen. So at least now we know what pool we're looking in terms of trying to move this forward. At least we have a bit of clarity around that situation, which maybe we didn't have in years gone by. The perception was always there, but we didn't actually have the clarity in terms of words from Daniel Levy. Now we do. So now we know what we are and what his ambition is to a large extent. But the big question is can we win doing it that way? That's the big question. Can it deliver success? And when I look at it, Jack, like I said, I understand what Levy is trying to do, right? What businessman and what football club in the right mind wouldn't want to be self-sustainable while trying to pick up trophies doing it? It's an ideal business model that everyone wants to get to, but unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. Like Sam and Mike have highlighted, there's other clubs circumventing ways around it, and stuff like that, So I would argue it's hard to justify that this is going to bring us success. But I go back to maybe my life experience on this. How many Leicester Cities have we seen in our lifetime where they won a Premier League title or one of the big major trophies with low cost and smart recruitment, and winning it whilst living within their means? We haven't seen that too much in our lifetime. My only reference is Leicester City. The rest all have gone out and bought some of the best players and put together the best squads to go and win things. At Tottenham, we have this ideal approach where we want to go and, not overpay for players or stuff like that. We want to do everything within our means, be the good little boys, and still go on and achieve success. I'm sorry, football doesn't work out like that. Now, where I will sort of maybe understand what Levy is trying to do and where I think he's missing the mark is, there's no point in comparing ourselves to Man City. They've been bankrolled. Chelsea down the years, bankrolled. Manchester United down the years, bankrolled. Went and bought all the best players. But one club I do think we could actually look at is Liverpool. When you look at them, a lot of their recruitment, it's smart. They very rarely miss, right? They don't go out and they're not in the pool for the best players in the world. A lot of their fans, and I'm surrounded by them, they all moan that they're not out there going out buying some of the best players in the world. But what they do is they buy the best of the rest. That's what they do. They go around to other leagues, players that aren't at the top clubs or the elite clubs already, they buy the best of the rest. But what they don't do is they don't get balked off by the asking fee. We go in sometimes for some of these players, we walk away because the asking fee. Liverpool identify a player, and no matter what the asking price is, they back it because they believe he's that guy. And I think that's where we go wrong to a large extent. Yeah. And when you look at that Liverpool team, you match it up with actually giving a manager time to build it up over time, like they've done with Jurgen Klopp. He didn't walk in and was an immediate success. So I remember their players were throwing up hands like that to the fans after a defeat or a draw to West Brom, and everyone was questioning, like, what are they doing here? But, their recruitment and their hiring of managers and willing to give them time and stuff like that is ultimately why they have that success. So I do think there is another way around. If we're not going to go out after best world-class players to bring them in here and go win trophies, there is another way around it to a large degree, like I pointed out with Liverpool. That's my example. But not only that, they went out and bought some real good players at the time. Virgil van Dijk, many people laughed at them paying 60 million. Look at the stabilization he's brought to that Liverpool backline, the money they spent on Alisson. We at Tottenham will not do that. And that's also a massive problem. We had the opportunity with the Harry Kane money. We didn't do it. We had the opportunity with the Gareth Bale money. We didn't do it. We keep missing. And this is where I think it's gone wrong. You look at other clubs. There's a lot of he talks about sustainability. You look in the dugout. There's consistency there a lot of the times. In the recruitment team, there's a lot of consistency there a lot of times. At Tottenham, and in terms of their squad as well, at Tottenham, we're chopping and changing every 2 years. We go, well, this is the direction we want to go in, and we try and go to it, and then all of a sudden that fails. We go in this direction, and we've too much turnover in terms of personnel coming into Tottenham. So if Daniel Levy wants to operate off this model, he needs to start looking at Liverpool and start putting in some of the practices that they've put in place to go. You look at them, they've won FA Cups, League Cups, Premier League titles, Club World Champions, Champions Leagues. There's a way to do it with living within your means. But you've got to be very decisive in what you're doing. And that's where I think Daniel Levy lets himself down. Also, where I think we're being sold much of a lie, Jack, is I remember when we were undertaking that stadium rebuild and, the plan that was put to the fans, buying up everything around, we're going to build this massive stadium. The whole idea behind it was to generate the wages and generate income that we could bring in better players and attract better players to the football club, while also maintaining our best players and matching wages that they can be offered at top clubs. Since we've moved into the stadium, we've sold our best players. Our wage bill is probably at one of the lowest it's ever been, in terms of, so we're not actually using that revenue. And then every other diverse revenue stream we've had, like the Formula One track, the abseiling, everything else, we're also being told, concerts, boxing, rugby, the whole shebang, we're also being told all this is so that we can bring in better players. But we never actually see that on the football pitch. So, do you blame fans that they feel they're being lied to? They're being sold one thing and one story behind one thing, known, and then when it's time for the outcome is never there, and we feel left lied to. It's almost like they're lying to us to get what they want, and then when it comes to delivering, they're just like brushing it off because they know there's nothing we can do because we're talking about billions of pounds here, in terms of form to get to sell and stuff like that. So I do feel like, for a large degree, fans are being taken advantage of too. When you look at the high wages and everything else we're paying, it just doesn't match up. But like I allude to, there is a way we can do it if we're smart, like Liverpool.
I mean, Dave mentioned the wage bill there, Mike. And one of the things that we've kind of harped on about is that Spurs, especially Daniel Levy, hasn't pushed the envelope, hasn't pushed the boat at all to bring in a big money signing, a proven player. With that, right, comes big wages, usually, those proven players and those big money signings. I mean, why is it that he won't ever break that sort of cycle? Like, what is it that's holding him back from wanting to do that? Despite the new stadium, despite the new revenue streams, he seems very reluctant to go for an elite forward or a game-changing signing to really push the club forward. Like, what's holding him back right now?
Well, I think the answer's in the question, and it's the wage structure. I'm sure it's capped at 200,000 per week.
Yeah,
no one can go higher like that. 180k for Son. Like, I don't know what the bonuses are. Packet of Mars, packet of Mars or something. Chris, fucking kebab down the road or something. Look, I think it's nonsense. Firstly, you're never going to get the best players in the world if you're limiting your wage so low. The best players in the world are on double that these days, 350, 400,000. So the bonuses are going to have to, and they're getting bonuses on top of that basic anyway.
True.
So what really are we doing different in the bonuses to attract these players? My answer would be nothing. We're not doing anything untoward to really attract, the top players. But we're not in a position to do that at the moment anyway. So I'm not even thinking about that. In
the fact that he's lowered the wage bill, Mike, do you think that's a plan to potentially bring in a big money signing that would come with big wages? Or is this just Levy just seeing like an opportunity here to just lower the wages as much as possible and then not push it forward? Do you think he will break the cycle this summer, or are we going to get the same deal?
Yeah, funny enough, I think, again, the answer does lie in that question slightly, where he is an opportunist. That's just the reality. It just made me laugh because everything he's done, in my opinion, since his tenure here, has been out of luck, really, more than brought out of a plan. Poch was lucky. He brought us a high level that allowed us to attract the top managers, but he didn't back them. Hate to harp on about the same things, but I feel that it's important that we do. And then when you've got the salary structure cap, all you can really do is sign young, high potential players, which means it's important that we have a good, coaching, training facility to bring the best out of these players.
But Mike, that's not all we can do. You go and look at Liverpool's front line. Diaz, they brought in. You look at Jota, they brought in. Great source of goals, great provider of goals. Darren Núñez, an absolute chaos merchant. But you people laugh at that signing, but I'd argue it's better than the two signings that we've made up front. You look at some of their recruitment, like Van Dijk off Southampton, 60 million. There is a way we can do this, but we constantly miss the mark in terms of players. Like, we went and splashed 50 million on Brennan Johnson. We're never, ever going to get that return back. But you never see Liverpool make them mistakes as consistently as we do. You look at Lo Celso, Ndombele, Richarlison. How many mistakes do we make in the transfer window? And this is my point. If we're going to operate this way, our recruitment has to be absolutely spot on, and it has to be absolutely thorough in terms of the mentality of the player, what they're coming here for, the potential of the player. But often it feels like, in terms of the guy we're bringing in, the director of football, a lot of other players we're bringing in, it often feels like we're just throwing arrows in the dark and hoping for the best. We nearly achieved what Leicester did in terms of with Pochettino. But the reality is, when it came to sprinkling that team with a little bit of stardust towards the end, just to help it get over the line, he didn't want to push the boat out. And back then we had the stadium as an excuse. And don't get me wrong, I still understand we've still got a lot of the stadium to pay off. But we're spending 50, 60 millions on a lot of players, but we're getting it wrong. We're not bringing in the caliber that Liverpool are doing, and that's the big problem. Like, there's this idea, utopia out there about Tottenham, that, we can go and spend 15, 20 million pounds on a player, bring in a great manager, and look to go and win a Premier League. But I'm sorry, when you look at the squad you're competing with, Liverpool, you look at their forward line, 5, 6, 7, 8 in depth, let alone the young lads they got around the club. Their midfield, their back line, their goalkeeper, it's all stocked. With us, it's the bare minimum. Then we stock it up with teenagers and say, go and compete, go and win us trophies. Dude, it's unrealistic. Like, you've got a fan base that are sitting here and they want trophies. And then you've got an owner who doesn't see the financial benefits of sprinkling it with 1 or 2 Stardust players and really pushing it on. And that's where we're at with Tottenham. You bring in 1 or 2, all of a sudden you start seeing other players' mentality around the club change. Players that they can look up to that say, that's what I want to be. We need that. But Daniel Levy doesn't see the benefits in that. And honestly, I think he's at a situation where he's actually weighed up potentially what it would cost to deliver a trophy-winning team and what you get in terms of prize money. And I don't think it adds up. And that's why he's always sacked managers off the basis of top 4. I think that's the most comfortable risk that he's willing to take. He's an accountant. You're telling me with all the smart financial people around the game right now, he doesn't have someone in his ear that have weighed up the figures in terms of what you get back for winning trophies and what it spends to win trophies. Of course he does. And I think in his eyes, that doesn't add up. But the reality is, we're a fan base. We've been patient enough. We haven't won a trophy since 2008. It's going on 17 years. You're looking at like some Newcastle pick one up. Leicester's picked one up. Some other clubs have picked one up. We're jealous. We're absolutely jealous. And we're constantly just stabbing in the dark. At some point, look at Liverpool. Get the best people in terms of in place you can for your recruitment. You identify a player. It doesn't matter what price they're asking for. You pay it. And you back your manager. It's that simple. If you want to be self-sustainable, look at Liverpool and operate like that.
Just want to let you, yeah. Sam, I was going to let you in. I mean, do you have any hopes of Levy breaking this cycle this summer? Like, has he lowered the wage bill to bring in a big money signing, or is he just doing Levy-nomics here? And like Mike brought up, is just seeing an opportunity just to lower the wage budget.
Yeah, look, I mean, both you, Jack, and Mike have said the word about lucky, I think. And I've been thinking about it, you know. I think that I've been watching Spurs basically since we won the trophy. My dad told me I went to the game, but I'd have been so young I hardly even remembered. Like I've got a scarf somewhere, but that's all I remember about it, you know.
Probably small enough to be able to sit on his shoulders at the time, lad.
And all I remember basically throughout watching Spurs is we've had periods where we've been direly mediocre, if you'll pardon the pun, and then we've had moments of you know, where we've looked like we're going to push on but ultimately don't, and that's for a few reasons for me. Like, for the majority of the time I've watched, obviously there was that period where the players that Poch brought in ended up being you know, we ended up having a very good first team. But that was the key. It was the first team. We actually had a very mediocre squad. And Mike was saying about, you know, Poch came in and we were lucky that we ended up where we are. I remember the quotes he was saying when he was saying we were like 10 years ahead of where we were supposed to be at that point, or something along those lines. And Levy's been lucky because he's either had a manager like Poch, or he's been able to pull out, you know, certain players, diamonds in the rough. You know, you had your Gareth Bale, then all of a sudden you've got Harry Kane, and for a decade you have Harry Kane, who's keeping us basically with minimal investment in the squad, keeping us relevant. You know, without Kane, as we're seeing, we'd have been probably 8th most seasons. You know, there and thereabouts for Europe, but not for the Europe that you know we feel like we should be in. And I feel like he has had the tools in place to link it back to your question, Jack. He's had the tools in place to basically push on and actually create a legacy where we are winning trophies. I'm not saying that we were ever going to be a Man City, you know, where we go and have a dynasty of winning trophies, but you know, we could have won trophies like every few years, especially with the players that we had. I mean, what was it? Kane got to 9 finals and semi-finals or something. Like, those teams should have had the the filler from windows to basically get us over the lines. And I can't remember the exact amount, but I remember we had players like Toby Alderweireld, one of the best centre backs that we've had that I've ever seen, and he was on like the least competitive wages of players in the league, and you were looking like at
Harry
crap
Maguire is
centre
being
backs.
paid more.
Yeah, exactly. You're looking at these crap centre backs that have nowhere near the pedigree of Alderweireld, and you're looking at it like our wages are just not competitive. And as Mike said, how can you attract players to come in when you aren't offering these wages? So I don't think he says all this stuff about sustainability, but he also said we can't spend what we don't have, and no one really knows what that means, because
good point.
he's basically left it vague enough to say, yeah, we can go for we can go for a Brennan Johnson and offer him I don't know what he's on, but $100,000 a week or something, rather than go for example, a Nico Williams for a similar price point, but we can't offer him anywhere near 300. And I'm not saying that we should be offering Nico Williams 300 just for people out there.
No, it's a contradiction. You bring up 700 million spent, but he says 700 million, but then he says we can't spend what we don't have. So which one is it? He's bragging about how much he has spent, but that he's saying we can't spend. It's a contradiction.
Dave, exactly that. And I've said before, I genuinely think that the worst thing that happened to the club was that window where we sold Bale and we signed the Bale 7.
Yeah.
Because other
Is that me?
than I think it was other than Christian Eriksen, we basically signed a load of duds, and he basically has never recovered mentally from that. He's not, and we look at all this stuff and we're linked to players like Eze or whoever in Windows, and it's just constantly the same thing over and over again. And so it's all for clubs to get better deals for their players.
Yeah.
So for me, no,
Sam,
he's not going to spend any money.
Sam, you might want to log it back in and back out. You're cutting in and cutting out there.
You're making a really good point, though, Sam. I thought you were in the middle of a very, very good point.
Just quickly, why Sam's doing that, though, I think, look, we can't spend what we don't have. Okay, fine. Most people understand that. Most people we all live week to week, right? You can't go out and buy Gucci or whatever else, even if you desire it, right? You just don't have the funds. But at the end of the day, if we actually put a manager in place and we said, he's our guy, we're going to back this. Eventually, you actually get to the squad to a point where the average spend is 100 million. You look at that 100 million, you could start going out and signing 80, 90 million pound players if you get the squad to a point and you've had the manager in long enough where you get to that point. But we never do. We spend 100 million per window. But the reason what brings down our average spend on a player is because the amount of gaps that we're trying to fill with it. And this is something I keep talking about. If you keep a manager in long enough, you let him develop his squad over a couple of transfer windows, eventually you are at the point where you go, we've got 100 million. Okay, we can go out and spend that on one player. And you can get them that way. So there is a way that it can be done, but it all comes back to him making the right decisions and actually believing in the people he hires. We're going to get onto it, but later on in the statement, we don't know whether he's maybe blaming other people for mismanaging the spending, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's responsible for putting them in place. So if you're going to bring them in place, trust them and stop changing direction every 18 months to 2 years. That's why we're pissing our money up against the wall. It's not that we don't have it. And, even if you want to say, okay, spend what we need, but we're pissing it up the wall because we're constantly changing directions and what we want to do and what we want to be on the football pitch. There is no clear plan there.
Sustainably in the same cycle is really what he should be saying. We find ourselves sustainably experiencing the same problems. I want to take some of these comments as well as some of the support from lovely people in the house, as well as say some hello to some people. I'll pass some of these to you guys as well in the panel. Paul Connor saying, good afternoon, lads. Hope you're all well and good. Want to see performance against Chelsea and Southampton and get some momentum for the Frankfurt game. We can all go all the way in Europe. We just have to believe. You and I were talking about this the other day. Paul, personally, I'm in the same boat. I think we should try to go with a version of our strongest lineup against Chelsea. I think most of the team or any of the players that we have to pick from should be able to get past Southampton. But the Chelsea game, difficult atmosphere, a team that hates us, a club that hates us. So it should be, in a way, a good preparation for traveling away to Frankfurt at some point too, right? Even though the first game is at home, I believe, for Spurs, right? You know, we can sort of use that Chelsea game as a bit of momentum, but also practice or training, you know, for the difficult Frankfurt away game. So big up to you, Paul, and 19 months as well as an elite member. And I was saying to Dave, you know, just earlier today, I think you've been on fire, by the way, with some of the things that you've been saying recently. And then Wayne Bonner, Dave, 43 months as a fan show member. Crazy long-term relationship we've had with Wayne Bonner here. And he's saying, hope everyone's well. Gotta love being a Spurs fan. We know in advance what the new season's going to be like. Come on, you Spurs, Tottenham till I die. That's what I sort of meant earlier, Mike, when you and I are laughing about the sustainability word, right? We sustainably know that Spurs will continue to find themselves in the same cycle. It's just, when will it ever be broken, I guess?
We've been in the same cycle for how long? You know, we said it when we sacked Conte. You know, we'll be here 2 years later. We're exactly in the same place. You know, players that leave the club, managers that leave the club, they're going on to other clubs and they're moving on with their life and genuinely becoming successful. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we're stuck here in this perpetual cycle. It's not good enough. But look, I can already map out the next 2 years. Next year, we'll do all right if we bring in a new manager bounce, finish, somewhere up and around the top six. And then the following year, it'll all go tits up like it does underneath everybody else. But big up, just back to Paul quickly. Paul, what I would say is coming into that Chelsea game, I think there's a huge opportunity. I would argue if we can go and nick something there to just get some buy-in and a little bit of belief, heading into the game at the weekend and that Europa League, which I think is important. And I would argue if they can go on a run between now and the end of the season, I think most fans would actually probably give Postecoglou a chance next season off the back of it. Football is a long time. A week is a long time in football, let alone a run of 10 or so games. So let's wait and see what happens, Paul.
No matter how bad it gets, a lot can change. And Wayne Bonner, some of the further comments that you brought up there, just want to say, man, you're on the ball, by the way. We have some further questions on that. So you're already well ahead of us, Wayne Bonner. It seems like great minds think alike. Shawnee Maddox, elite member for 19 months. Appreciate you, Shawnee, saying, my ITK told me that the club are planning to offer Davies a 2-year contract as a player coach. Who isn't going to be excited for that? Thoughts? Is he going to replace Mason? Dave, the interim manager. We just really hope we don't have to go to that this season. That's as much as we've criticized Ange and whatnot, I think you've maybe been more fair in sort of trying to support Ange than plenty of us. But I just think my hope is that Ange does stay on the job till the end of the season, because I really don't want to go back to, interim manager for the last 5, 6, 7 games. It's just, that's always the sign of the end. And that's where my hope is for Ange, is that he does get to the end of the season. And we do give him that.
Well, you bring in an interim manager, it's sort of remittance, that the last whatever games you have left, no one really cares about. You're just managing it until you get to the summer, right? So, I don't think I want to be in that position again. You're absolutely spot on. Look, in terms of Davies, it's interesting, what will happen with him coming. Look, his contract is coming up. I would argue if the club were maybe planning on keeping him, would there already be discussions or, rumors of discussions taking place? I think the fact that it's very silent, I just wonder, could we be seeing the end of Ben Davies this season? But, like I said, I think he's done well this year, but I also question when you've got 85K a week on the line, whatever club you're going to sign on next ain't paying you that at your age of 32, 33. You are going to perform better than what you have done in recent seasons. So I question, fair enough. Some would say he's earned it. But I would say, when there's 85K a week, he's earned it. But when that wasn't on the line, what did he do for Tottenham Hotspur? So I'd argue, I don't think he deserves a new contract. If he wants to stay on, we want to bring him down the coach route, be my guest. I'm a big advocate if we can help these players out, give them a life after their playing days in terms of, helping them out to go into the likes of coaching, management, TV or whatever. We should be doing that.
I would also love to see a Sean Maddox character arc of him becoming an ITK. I think that would be a lot of fun for us.
He'd piss me off if he was an ITK.
Artist T saying, big up, guys. Also, why does Sam look like a supervillain, all black in a dark room with a deadpan face? Keep up the great work, guys. All love.
It's a dark room. Yeah, it's a dark room that makes him look evil. He's actually a really nice guy, actually, Sam. We've great time for Sam.
One of the nicer comments he's received. One of the nicer comments you've received, Sam.
I'm the kind of guy that, parents love. I come in, I've got my manners, please and thank you. But I think people say it's because I've got very curved eyebrows and I got my mustache that people think I'm evil. But if I twirl it a little bit and I got a bit more of something going on, maybe they'll appreciate me more.
Yeah, a little hipster,
I did want to say,
hipster
Jack,
twist.
I did want to say, you said, is my audio all right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing. It was only cutting off for like half a second, then it felt like you were in the middle of a good point, so we just couldn't hear the whole thing. But yeah, what were you about to say? Yeah.
Just my final thing about Levy being lucky. You said about he's got to the point where, you know, we're like an established Premier League team, right? And you know, we'll be in the Premier League like forever, or what, I can't remember exactly what you said, but again, he's just very lucky, because we're lucky the fact that there's 3 teams in the league that are genuinely awful, or not up to the standard of the Premier League. Maybe I'll be a bit more respectful. Otherwise, we really would be in a relegation scrap. And then his whole sustainability thing goes out the window, because you're suddenly fighting to actually stay in the league. And maybe if we actually were in a relegation, maybe you would have seen him actually throw money at January, and we might have ended up having some big players come in. I mean, who wants to come to a relegation like scrapping team? But you know what I mean?
That's a fair point.
Just quickly, what's so uncomfortable with me as well, you know, bangs on about being the ninth richest club in world football, but I'd argue if you probably look at the top 15, we're probably the only club on that list without a genuine world-class player on the books.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I mean, I think Sam is right, actually, that we were dangerously close to really. I mean, we had for a couple of weeks a dangerous conversation about, you know, relegation, sort of fight and battle. And luckily, you know, we got the players back in time to move away from it. But I think Sam is right. You know, it seems like, you know, we're lucky that just every year there happens to be just some awful teams that get promoted that don't really have the backing to be able to compete with us. But it's no compliment to us, and it's no compliment to Daniel Levy as much as he might want to make it out to be. Artist T, thanks for all the love, man. Thanks for all the support that you show us, and thanks for the wonderful compliment for Sam. You know, I think he'll take it at this moment in time. Big up to you, sir. Just wanted to say hello to Joff as well from Perth. Big up to you, sir. Thanks for listening to us before bedtime. Patty Harnett as well. Good to see you. Hopefully everything's all good. Patty. Safe driving to you as well while this is on. Stevie Frazier, best midfielder around. Good to see you, Stevie. Super Spurs TV's in the house as well. Good to see you, man. And John Stokes as well. Good to see you, John Stokes. Giving us some suggestions of where you could buy your kits if you want to buy the all-black kit for next year. I think plenty of us are interested in it. Archer as well. Good to see you, sir. We have K32, Shemi Tan, and the one and only Jason Bell as well. Appreciate you guys. And thanks for everybody that's been piling in here. Team Harris is in here. Team Harris is checking in, Dave. And then DJ AK as well. Big up to you guys. Really appreciate you all.
Good to see you.
Close to 300 in the house, by the way, watching on X as well as here on YouTube. If you guys want to follow us over here to YouTube, if you are over on X, feel free to do so. We can bring up your comments on screen, and just want to say thanks for everybody for picking us during this evening for your entertainment, as well as for some good Spurs combo. I think it's been a very good combo so far. Super Spurs TV saying, big up, lads. If he is a true custodian, he would live by our club ethos to dares to do. When the effing hell did Daniel Levy ever dare to do anything? If I was on the fence, not now. Bye Levy. Big Mike, you're laughing there. I mean, isn't that kind of the contradiction about Levy? Is that to dares to do, but he's the guy that argues sustainability and never pushing the boat out as the approach. Never daring.
Yeah, he doesn't follow the club mantra at all, you know. Multiple times he's nearly killed the club off, you know what I mean? But like Sam alliterated, you know, following on from the points, he's just been so lucky. You know, it made me laugh when you brought up the Magnificent Seven. I think it was being coined as at one point, the Bale spending. I'll give anyone on the panel now $5 if you can tell me the 7 players, because, boy, I don't remember all 7.
I know what, Kirkesh, Eriksson, Vertonghen, was Fazio, maybe? I don't know. I could be wrong there.
Nasser Chadley was one as well.
Nasser Chadley was one.
Nasser Chadley. Wait, was Vertonghen part of that money? Really?
I think so. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure.
I mean, if he was, then that's...
Eriksson was the best
Eriksson,
one.
Definitely. I think Nasser Chadley was like the second best one out of the 7. Like,
you know, he was underrated. He used to score anytime he used to come on.
He did all right.
But just Blaine, like, and this is where I do agree with Blaine. You know, like, don't get me wrong. I do understand, you know, the fact, like, there has to be a bit of credit gone his way in terms of, you know, navigating, building a world-class stadium, world-class training complex, etc. And trying to keep us, afloat and stuff. There does need to be a bit of credit go his way in terms of that, for sure. But at the end of the day, the culture at the club stems from him. There is to do. If he's not willing to take risks, then that'll upset your manager. It'll upset your best players. And what we end up seeing is they all end up walking away from this football club. We buy players, and whether they're performing or not, we allow them to sit around here for 4 or 5 years. And then us as fans, we enter silly debates going, should we give them another chance? Should we not? You got a top club. They're bounced out of there within 2 seasons if they're not pulling their weight. It's that simple. And for me, he needs to start setting that culture from the club. From the top. Unless you start setting that culture, we wonder why players are allowed to come on and perform some games and not perform others, basically allowing them to pick and choose when they want to perform, because there's no consequences. And they know if they don't perform, there's no other guy behind them that's of a decent enough quality chasing his position down. So all of a sudden, the manager's picking players that are below standard, not performing well. And then, it just feeds into that culture all around the club. It's just one cycle that's eating itself, It's an absolute joke at some point. And this is where I do agree with Blaine. He needs to start taking risks. He needs to start being ruthless. You're not performing, you're bounced out the door. It's that simple.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, if he just... Oh, sorry, I just wanted to caveat. If you just follow the simple rule of thumb, like, every signing should be trying to improve the first 11. If you just follow that basic mantra, you're improving the squad by default. And that's why I think we're always falling short. We're always trying to get that bargain in the bargain bucket, last minute deal. He loves the lastminutedeal.com. He's just, everything about him is just a chancer, in my honest opinion. So
we're also one of the only clubs that bring in players that we know straight away he's a squad player. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we never really
literally.
To improve the first 11. It's always bring him in, develop him, squad player. Let's see how he goes, see if we break into the first 11. We never go, bam, there you are, straight into the first 11. Spurs fans, get your cocks in hand, stroke yourself off. This guy's going to be great to watch. Never.
Yeah, unless the position's completely void, like Hugo Lloris is retiring. Now we don't even have a goalkeeper, so whoever comes in steps in. But that's not how it should be. Like you should have 22 players of, if our ambition is top 4, then 22 players of top 4 achieving quality. That's it, period. There's no other, you can't, the Premier League's very honest now. There's too many clubs with too much money and too many smart signings and investment and training facilities and stuff where you can't afford to make any mistakes, really. Every mistake you make sets you back 1 more position, 2 more positions, 3 more positions. Like Sam said, in a different year, we would be literally, honestly, 30 points, whatever, that would have you smack bang in 18th, 19th, something like that. You'd be right in the scrap, in the mix, and we'd all be talking about a different topic right now, I promise you.
A very good point, Big Mike, about, even just now, or it used to be for sure, just 3-4 mistakes like that, all of a sudden you did slip, really hard, but he's lucky that he hasn't. The word that Sam used earlier, luck definitely does play a part. Lazy 8 reminding us of Paulinho. Good to see you. He's saying, what a joke of a signing. I mean, that's the one we definitely don't want to remember. What was it, like 40 million pounds or something like that? Absolutely crazy.
We signed him off the back of one good World Cup, though. No one knew who he was before that. He had a good World Cup. All of a sudden, he ends up at Tottenham.
For a big chunk as well. But let's get on to this one. Speaking of maybe money spent, since opening our new stadium in April 2019, we've invested over £700 million net in player acquisitions. That's what Daniel Levy said. And he also had this to say after that. He's saying recruitment remains a key focus for us, and we must ensure that we make smart purchases within our financial means. Now, I wonder if this is one of the biggest deflections of responsibility that he's made in this statement, guys. Is this maybe him putting a bit of pressure as well as maybe a bit of blame on guys like Johan Lange, because he's saying that within, our budget, we have to make smart purchases within our financial means. So is that him calling out perhaps the recruitment team and then also deflecting responsibility, on his part? Anybody's welcome to come in first, and I think everybody should have a say on it.
I wonder what his definition of smart is, because is
the smart one? Financial gain,
is it,
Alejo
exactly that. Is it smart because you can sell them on later for more money, or is it smart because there's an opportunity to bring them in for cheap? Like that's the question for me. I'm just he's everything he says is like a riddle. You never get the full truth out of the guy. And you could ask him how old he is, and he'd say, "I'm between 40 and 60." You know what I mean? You'd never get a dead-on answer. And I just think that you sign these players, like some of the young players, right? And I'm all for signing these young players. Not every single signing being a young player. Like I don't want to sign, 3 18-year-olds every season. But if you are signing these young players, what good does it do you if in 2 or 3 years after you've started to develop them, they look around and go, we're kind of in the same position we were when I came in. I could look to go somewhere else now. So you basically just develop these young players for someone else.
Yep, that's all we're doing. We're just developing and waiting to be picked off by Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, teams like that. That's all we're doing.
Love that point from Sam, Mike, and Dave, where he says, right, what is Daniel Levy's version of smart purchases? And it seems like a very convenient word to use, but, he definitely is, deflecting responsibility here, isn't he?
Yeah, I think...
is he calling out Johan Lange, do you think?
Well, to be fair, I don't know if he's calling anyone out, but I think, surprisingly enough, the timing's kind of perfect. Like, we're already down. Like, we're already, as a fan base, like, low. So it's just kicking the dog while it's down. I already just throw another dig in. It's fine. I had 22 earlier this week from the same club, so it's all right. Like that's the weird thing about it. So is it a deflection? Yeah, no. Is he speaking in riddles? 100%. I agree with Sam. Like the guy just, I agree with everything Sam said. It's the smart purchase is buying him young. Hopefully, you've developed them into some, world class or close to world class sort of talent. And you double the fee, and I think that's all. I think he's only ever been in it for the money. I don't think there's. I know he said some statement before this where he wants to win or something like that, and I do agree with some people that I can't see him really selling up until he wins something. I think he's got enough ego in that regard to kind of stubborn enough to. I mean, he sat there with thousands of fans screaming his name to get out of the club. He doesn't care. Like he's not going anywhere. So I don't know. Like it is a deflection. It's also kind of the truth at the same time. Yeah. It's very, very strange circumstances that we find ourselves in. Could we push the boat out? I think we 100% could. What are we spending? 40% of the wage bill? The net profit is on wages or something like that. Is that right? Something.
Yeah.
Essentially, for every £100 we make, £40 gets spent on wages. So there is money. But. Like I said, I think the guy just got lucky, still continues to get lucky. He's got no option but to back Andrew. Just who's going to come in? Didn't Irioli even say he doesn't even look like he wants to join us?
Well, yeah, it's saying it's our top target, but we haven't gotten any indication that Iraola is, willing to take that on. Just Dave,
no.
Maybe on Jason Bell's comment, Levy has been talking about improving recruitment for a few years now. I'm not sure though that anything is improving. I mean, Dave, is this kind of sort of Daniel Levy saying the directors of football, the guys that doing the recruitment, they got to bat 1,000, under him, right? They have to be able to work within a very strict budget, especially with wage bills, but then they also have to get the signing perfectly right. They can't make any mistakes because there's only so much allowance he's even going to give them.
Look, putting up the money, I think, 100 million, it's more than enough for you to be able to fix issues in your squad. I think it's more than enough. But at the end of the day, if he's trying to deflect it on and saying, look, I'm putting up the money, other people are spending it wrong. You hired him and you paid him a wage to spend it right. So then why do you why do you go so far underneath them? Under Steve Hitchen, it's clear the recruitment wasn't going in the right direction. We still shelled out nearly 400 million under the fucker. We wonder why the club's coffers oasis. Nearly everything Steve Hitchen bought in has been removed out of this football club. It's absolutely mind-boggling the way we recklessly waste our money. You look at Man United, they're even more reckless than what we are. But what you're seeing is big clubs at the top that are recklessly spending or not spending it correctly. You are going to take the hit. That's what we've seen. And look, he can sit there and he can blame, Steve Hitchen. You gave him all that money to spend. The Paratici one's a bit different because I do think that was one that was working, but because of Paratici's the ban and what happened in Italy caught up in him, we had to go in a different direction. But that's where he went wrong. Why not give Gabbanini the job and just get Gabbanini to work off Paratici's directive? What you've done is you bring in Johan Lange, who Aston Villa fucked off out of the football club because he couldn't get the recruitment they needed to kick on. They brought in Munchie, and now they're bringing in Asensios and players like that. We're out in the J-League, the Swedish second division, all this sort of nonsense, where no other club is. It's absolutely mind-boggling to a large degree. Don't get me wrong. Like, we made a smart signing in Archie Gray in the summer, 40 million, no brainer. The kid is going to be a brilliant player. But then you go and sign someone like Kim Min-hyuk. You know, before we signed someone like Alejo Valise. I mean, I'm not being funny, but what do they contribute to what we're doing going forward? Waste the money, waste the wages. Can't keep going down this route. And at the end of the day, he's the one that hands over that money. But also, to a degree, their jobs are also hampered. Let's not forget, they also have to work within strict financial things. You know, Daniel Levy was set the remit. I don't want you spending X amount on this player and stuff like that, which makes their job harder as well, because then they're having to try and go out and get the best value for money. But what we actually need to do is just identify the right player, say he's exactly what we need in this position, got the right mentality, don't care how much it costs, pay it. But I don't want to hear him blame other people. You hired them. You bring them in. You know, right now we're sitting here, we're seeing conflicting reports. One saying, you know, oh, we're going to stick with Johan Lang and that. And then another saying, we're trying to bring Paratici back. I mean, what are we doing here? What direction are we going in? For me, he needs to make a serious attempt to get Paratici back in, get him in there over the head of the recruitment and get it pushing on in that direction again. Because Johan Lang is trying to operate off all the stuff that Paratici puts in place, but he's half the man. Honestly, he doesn't have the contacts. No one respects him in world football. Nothing. So, you know, he makes our job harder. So if we are going to go down this self-sustainable route and we want to, you know, try and get the best value for money, then you start pumping your money into the best people to make that happen, like your Paraticis, like your physios and stuff like that. That's what you need to do.
We have this coming in from Levy Towers. Levy in 2019, the new stadium is a game changer, which will enable us to compete financially with the biggest clubs in Europe. Also, Levy in 2025, we can spend money. We can't spend money we don't have. It's the poison of THFC. I think this is brilliantly put out by Levy Towers, right? We were sold a dream with the new stadium, and it feels like we're still hearing the same excuses from before the new stadium was built.
Well, that's exactly what we are. You know, we should never have been in a position where we had to sell Harry Kane. We shouldn't be in this position this summer where we should be selling Romero. And the only reason why, you know, these guys are not signing on the contract and forcing their way out of the football club is because you're not bringing in players to match their ambition. You know, and this is why, you know, and this is a key context here that Levy Towers has put in that I think many people miss on why Tottenham fans are pissed off. Like, I'm one. I'll sit there and say, do you know what? From the club I supported as a boy to where Daniel Levy brought us up until 2019, complete different football club heading in the right direction. But since then, you know, in order to compete with the big teams, he just doesn't have the nous or the know-how. And at the end of the day, we all sacrificed for many years, you know, because they wanted to buy up property around to build this stadium. Don't forget, it didn't just happen overnight. We spent many years putting money in to buying property and sacrificing. We spent 3 transfer windows over Pochettino sacrificing because we were told the benefits this stadium will bring. And here we are selling our best players and going out to leagues where no one else is recruiting from and bringing in players. I mean, the words and what we've been told and the actions do not match up. And people wonder why Spurs fans are very unhappy right now.
And also as well, like even Daniel Harris saying he's ruthless when it comes to cutting pensioner concessions, but when it comes to signing the big name players, he isn't that ruthless. And this is the thing, right? We expected Levy with maybe the new revenue streams, with the benefit of the new stadium, to be able to kind of push the boat out, you know, that much more than he used to. And we're actually seeing it almost retract. We're seeing him almost be more conservative, even more, you know, cautious than he used to be. Just nothing seems to be changing despite revenue streams improving and improving and improving. It's just a contradiction of what he said in 2019. Completely agree from Levy Towers. Did anybody else have anything to add to this, or move on
Have
to
any of you
some
guys
other
seen
questions?
that is it Matt Damon film Elysium? Have you seen that?
No.
It's about like the poor people live on Earth after it's been kind of like decimated by
like breakaway
pollution, and it's basically like Earth is like a desert, and then all the rich people live like out just outside the atmosphere on this big ring, and that's how I look at it with this Levy stuff. Is like you're saying about ruthlessness with buying players. Let's be honest, he doesn't care about the football side of it, or doesn't care enough about the football side of it to sacrifice the kudos that he's getting from the other elites at the top of the game, basically, where it's like, oh wow, look at Daniel Levy, what a chairman. He's, you know, turning the club into this multi-level entertainment venture. And look, I'm not here saying I don't appreciate that. I do. You know, I like Travis Scott. I don't really like Beyonce that much, but like, you know, I don't have anything against these ventures that they're doing, but they're looking at it as money in their pockets. And there's a comment in the chat by Matt Barden, who I think he's talking about one of the points that I made before. He said, why didn't Levy sell Dyer, Dele, Eriksson, etc. if we're a selling club? I didn't say that we were a selling club. This is the comment. I didn't say that they were a selling club. My point was that, as Dave mentioned about Romero and Kane wanting to leave for ambition, why would Dyer, Dele, and Eriksson leave when we were fighting for Champions League every season and we're pushing actually to the top of the league, you know, consecutive third and second finishes? There was no reason for those players to look to force their way out. But if we're going to end up finishing, you know, sort of bottom end of Europe every season with these young players, the likes of Bergvall, who we've pried away from Barcelona, for example, or you look at Archie Gray and you think he's like Rico Lewis on steroids, or he could be. You know, teams like Man City, Barcelona, you know, Chelsea, if they've got the money, you know, these teams and foreign clubs are going to be looking at our young players, as I said, that we're developing, and you know, God willing, they turn out to be good players. They will be gone, and there'll be nothing that we can do about it because the chairman never matched the ambitions of the players and the fans.
Yeah, very good point, Sam. Just want to say thanks to Levy Towers, thanks to Artist T, Super Spurs, Blaine, Shawnee Maddox, Wayne Bonner, Paul Connor. Thank you guys for all the support. And we have over 300 total watching us on X and YouTube. If you want to follow us over, please do. We have 160 in the house on YouTube. If you guys could smash the like button, would help us a ton. Only 53 likes from what I'm seeing at the moment. But I do believe that we have just one more question, you know, on Daniel Levy here. He did say that I want to thank everyone who supports us through the club, good times and bad. We are resilient and passionate about our club. We shall aim to finish this season as strongly as we can and continue to build for success on the pitch. Do we find this just to be like a nothing statement from him, or is this maybe a call for fans to put aside the frustrations that we've been saying now and just get behind the team, which is one of the common quotes these days, i.e. maybe, you know, the Europa League that we'll have next week, right, to worry about. So what did you make of maybe his final comments there? Is it just kind of a nothing statement, or is it maybe a call for us to put aside these frustrations that we're all sharing right now?
Look, I think it's a call to the fans, like basically saying, look, we've got, you know, so long left. Let's not give up. You know, he's sort of saying the same as the manager and the players to a certain degree, which is good. But the reality is, we're here every single game. The stadium's sold out nearly every single game. Spurs fans turn up. We support the team. Yes, we might have criticisms. We might voice our disappointment with what we've seen or what's gone on. But at the end of the day, we still support the team by turning up, you know, every single game, wanting to win, you know, trying to plot a way to win. That is supporting your football team. The reactions after games, but that's based off what they've seen. That's fair game as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to supporting your team for every single game, we're there. You see that by the stadium still being sold out. You see that by everybody still, you know, around the world sitting down, making time to watch games. People all around the world. Some of them have work days. They're ditching off work for 2 hours, sit there and watch a game. They're supporting this football team. They're supporting this football club. But what doesn't match up is the fans' demands and what the owners want out of this football club. That's where the big problem comes in. And that's actually where a lot of the disgruntlement comes in between Daniel Levy's ambition for Tottenham Hotspur and the fans' ambition for Tottenham Hotspur. So you can sit there and say support the club all you want. You want to support the club, Daniel Levy. Support the fan base and match their ambition. I'm sorry, but is winning trophies the worst ambition in the world? I mean, come on, it's not. It's where every fan wants to be. It's not like he wants to be. It's not like we want to be dictators and take over countries and all. We just want to win trophies. We just want to be successful. It's not a bad ambition to have. So how about trying to at least somewhere along the line align with the fans, and that way you've got everybody pushing forward in one direction. But it comes from him. But this whole nonsense of sit there, back the team, everything else, I'm fed up with it. We're there every single fucking game. Every game, we back this team.
I just wanted to say I accidentally skipped a question that definitely is worth asking, and I'll ask it to Sam and Mike. In last year's statement, Livy said that they were seeking external investment. In that statement this year, though, he's no mention of external investment at all. Is this an indication that maybe he has succeeded in bringing it in, or has he failed and maybe lied to us about the external investment? Because there's no mention of it this time. Any of you can come in.
I would say if it was successful, wouldn't we would know something, right? So the answer has to be either that's still ongoing, he just forgot to mention it, or like you said, that's fallen flat on its face.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would want to sell anything. When you look at what they're doing to, the acquisition of all the property and land around, all the buildings around and stuff, they're going to turn it into a little Tottenham Hotspur village. The price on that is kind of priceless. It's like a MasterCard advert. £1 billion stadium, £2 billion yearly sales in the shop. Tottenham Village, priceless. Like I can't even tell you how much money that's going to potentially make. So
it's a portfolio.
Yeah, I don't see him. Yeah, I just don't see him going anywhere. Even if there is some kind of investment, is that investment going to go towards players on the pitch? Because that's really where we need the investment. Like, 100%. And I'm done with words. The whole lip service from the statements and his little interviews that he does, where it's all tailor made to suit him and make him comfortable. No, I'm done with that. I want to see actions, and we're not really seeing that.
No.
It's weird though. I will just caveat on this. Probably for the first time, he probably is kind of making some of the right decisions, like trying to back the manager to the very end, not kind of pulling the trigger like I thought he was going to. But I just feel it's maybe too little, too late. But yeah, I'll leave it on that.
No, great points there, Mike. And to you, Sam, do you think the fact that he's left out any sort of hint of external investment, is that a bad sign or a good sign for you?
I'm kind of impartial on it, to be honest. I wonder if he's left it out because, as you said, maybe he's failed in bringing it in. And the question of why he's failed, I wonder if that's to do with some of the demands that he wants should he sell the club. We see a lot of these rumors coming out, right, that saying that he wants to remain in charge, basically. And I wonder if that kind of extends to, as Mike was saying, about the external property stuff. Like, the attraction to Tottenham at the moment is not the team, it's not the football club, it's everything that comes with it. And is he saying that he's gonna release his talons, let's say, on the prey that is all the infrastructure that is going on around the club? That's where I wonder. And people are saying basically, well, I'm wondering if people are saying, well, I don't want to buy the football club because the football club's shit. I want like a piece of the pie that's going on around the club, and he doesn't want to sell that, because I guess it's like this Chelsea stuff that I'm sure all of this stuff is in like other subsidiaries that are under the ENIC umbrella rather than under the umbrella of Tottenham. So I wonder if that's part of it.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I just wanted to make, while we still have you guys for maybe another 5-10 minutes or so, and then we want to honor your guys' plans and your evenings, but we did want to have a little bit of a mention of the interview that Ange Postecoglou did with Optus Sport. It's kind of sort of spoke about maybe some mistakes potentially that went on in the beginning of the season. This is what he had to say. He says, "I think we went into the season really hard and underestimated the challenges of Europe with the 2 extra games, having a cup run, all those things. You add to the mix losing key players as well early on. It feels like we've been chasing our tail since then, and we haven't been able to get ahead of the challenges we've had. And then something else happens, and then it shifts. That goes back to the start of the year. We maybe would have taken a different approach, knowing the kind of season that we have had." Does he admit to maybe some sort of mistakes here? Is this, maybe something that could have been done differently? What could have been done differently? And then just general thoughts on the interview if you have seen it. I believe you mentioned earlier in the back end, Mike, that you did get a chance to watch the interview. So your thoughts on the interview, and then also maybe him admitting to potential mistakes, that's led to this season kind of being hindered.
Yeah, so I did get a chance to catch up on it. I didn't know it had come out until you mentioned it, to be honest with you. I think it was in the last sort of 24 hours or so. So yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, for the first time, I'm kind of taking a bit of accountability. But a couple of things that I noticed and that kind of frustrated me is like he kind of admits that he failed to prepare properly, and I think that's kind of frustrating.
Is he mean he failed to prepare for properly, or the club in general?
Yeah, true. Okay, I'll rephrase that. The club failed to prepare properly, which he's a part of, and Johan Lang and Levy and everyone. Yeah, the whole recruitment team and the management team are responsible for making sure that we achieve our objectives for the season. And I don't want to hear relegation scrap and quarter-final push for Europa League was our achievements this season. So, look, I think there's a bit of accountability there from Ange personally and from the club. But, you know, it is still a little bit frustrating. I just feel it's got to a point now where I think we're at the caveat of actions speak louder than words. So I want to see some action. I want to see it, not tomorrow, on Thursday night, yeah? It starts on that game there. I don't even expect to win, but I want to see the performance. If you're so disappointed, go out in that game and start bringing some pride back to this club so the fans can go in and speak to their rival fans with a bit of chest. We've got no chest.
Yeah.
There's no chest. We've got nothing. Flat. It's annoying. So anyway, sorry, I know I keep carrying, but yeah, that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, I mean, what sort of challenges do you think he was alluding to, maybe, Sam, that could have been done differently? Is, you know, what Mike said, do you think, does that ring with you? Maybe the recruitment to maybe potentially, you know, player rotation could have been done differently. What do you think he means by, you know, things that could have been done differently, and had he known about it, I guess?
I think where I'll give Ange some credit is he does seem like a pretty genuine guy. You know, he'll hold his hands up and kind of take the flack. So I do think that he is basically saying that, as well as the club, he is saying that he failed. So personally, I would say that, you know, his failure is the lack of squad rotation. He's not the only manager that's failed with squad rotation, because under other managers, they've not felt like the players around the first team squad were good enough to actually bring in. The problem is that they actually have brought in some decent players, and I do think that our squad is better than they're being made out to look. Are they much better? Maybe not, but I do think that they are better than they're being made out to be. And I think the reverse is true for teams like Bournemouth, where I don't actually think their squad is as good as people make out, but they're playing over their means, like maybe we were at the start of Pochettino's reign. I think that he is also sort of saying, you know, the club has failed, and that will be in terms of signings. For me, which is the case of, you know, you only sign one guaranteed starter at the start of the season when you've just come back off the club's worst ever injury crisis of like the modern era. And obviously we basically leapfrog that into the newest worst injury crisis. And look, it's not to say that, you know, the players ended up being the players that we have brought in have ended up being the ones that have played basically the most football over this time. You know, Gray's played ridiculous minutes. Bergval's probably played more than they would have hoped for. But I also think that there is more to it than just the signings. And, you know, we've spoken at length in other shows about the fitness stuff and about the medical department. And it's all these things where the club's saying, oh, we'll have to do a review into this, we'll have to do a review into that. We are turning into a bit of a circus at the moment. And I can't remember which one of you said it at the beginning. I think it may have been Dave. If it was and one of you, I'm sorry, but he was saying about stability in clubs. And a lot of people have kind of been comparing the mess that Spurs are in to the mess that United are in. Obviously, we're a similar position in the league. And they're saying, oh, would you prefer to be in Spurs' position or United's? And people were saying, well, you know, Spurs have got the stability behind them. They've got the training ground. They've got the stadium. They've got the dirt. They've got the this, they've got that. And that United have a lot of stuff they need to try and figure out. But when you actually deep it and you look at it on a level, we also have a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we need to figure out. I'm not saying I'd want to be United now. Maybe, 15 years ago, I would have wanted to be United. But we're not as superior to them in terms of sustainability as they are, because we do have a lot of these issues, and you see these comments from players like Romero, where you're hearing that he was like deeply upset by how bad the medical department is, and you see other players basically having to outsource their own trainings, and boo-hoo, the players who earn over $100,000 a week have to go and get their own trainers. Like, I'm not here to offer them a shoulder to cry on, but the club should be providing them with the facilities. Again, we've said this probably so many different times that the Pochettino quote about having a mansion and filling it with IKEA furniture, and it basically seems to relate to every facet of Tottenham Hotspur.
No, brilliant, Sam. Brilliant. And Dave, if you have anything to add, I think we can. No,
I just want to add quickly on top of that. Look, what I will say is it's nice to hear someone come out and take accountability for this season, and in fairness to Ange Postecoglou, he's done that. I think what would be even more concerning if he was just delusional, batting it away, and didn't recognize, where the problems were and where we went wrong this season. The fact that, he's come out and he's admitted it, he's taken accountability to a certain extent. I think fair play to the guy. We need more of that around Tottenham. In years gone by, in fairness, we have had managers who have said, this is a Tottenham mess, it ain't mine. Postecoglou, like Conte, and I like Conte and I like Ange, but at least Ange is not just putting it all on the football club and everybody else attached with the football club. He is taking responsibility, and I actually think he deserves credit in that regard. You haven't heard Levy come out with the financial statement or anything like that, taking any flack for what's gone on this season. A lot of the players, anytime we've questioned about them being at the darts and stuff, you're a Wally, you're this, you're that, none of them really want to take too much of accountability. So at least the manager is taking accountability. And I'm not being funny, but if I'm a player or anyone in and around Tottenham Hotspur, I want my manager taking accountability. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So fair play to him in that regard. But in terms of where I think it becomes a bit scary, is from the club's point of view. Not the first season we've had Europe. We've had Europe since 2012, onwards. It's not the first time. So the fact that, and I think, he's alluding to more than one thing. Obviously, on the back of that, he also went on, spoke on about the demand and fixture schedule in terms of the Premier League, cup runs and all that sort of stuff combined with Europe. But this is not new for the football club. And I'm sorry, but it's also nothing really new to Ange Postecoglou, who's at Europe with Celtic. You know what I mean? So the fact that all this planning went wrong is not good enough internally from everybody at the football club. If you want to go into the recruitment, a little fat Irish lad, 5 stone overweight, was able to tell them in the summer that recruitment was never going to achieve their dreams. I would go in and do that for free. You don't need to pay me to tell you that. So what the fuck is the transfer committee doing in terms of bringing in the players and stuff like that? Even if you want to go into preseason, I think maybe he's alluding to as well that maybe, they misjudged the preseason, in terms of coming into the season, and that maybe they would have took the approach to the start of the season a bit slower instead of as gung-ho as they did. He sort of alluded to that. But, fair enough. But again, people that are planning preseasons, is no one on the same page? Is nobody on the same page? Is everyone just sitting there going, yep? Is anyone raising any concerns, any flags? You put most of us fans in them rooms around them planning meetings. We'd be the first ones to put our hands up and say, well, what about this? I'm not being funny, but that is scary that we've completely, fucked it up in terms of from the start of the season with our plans and everything else heading into the season. I sat there. I spoke about the demands that Europe's going to have, that you need to fill out your squad and have 22 to 25 players, if you can, that are all at a certain level that can help you go and compete. We all know that us fans know the demands of all the fixture schedules and all the international games and everything else. So it's nothing new. And the fact that it's gone so wrong is scary. But where I do applaud Ange, he's the only one that's taken accountability. And he's the only one that's took accountability actually all season long, whether people like Ange or don't. He's the only one that sat in the press conferences and has took accountability. And every time, whatever question's been asked, he said, it's up to me to sort out, whether it's been down to the physio team, which isn't up to Ange to sort out, by the way. That's up to people above him, down to recruitment. We all know in modern day football clubs that managers have fuck all say in terms of what players come in. Recruitment are being made by director of footballs, stuff like that. So again, he's taking accountability for them. So You know, I know a lot of people don't like the interview or the result of what was being said, but at the end of the day, at least he's stepping up and taking some accountability.
It's scary that we've also probably had this conversation plenty of times before about, us not being properly prepared for handling multiple competitions at once, in a season. It's definitely not the first time. Wrapping up here. Thank you, Eugene. 7-month milestone. Thank you for all the
Big up,
milestones
Eugene.
today. Crazy numbers and crazy long-term sort of support. And Eugene saying same conversation every year, either spend and challenge or go full youth movement. We can't do both as a club. No more half measures. I will say this, though. I wonder if you can, in a way, improve the academy, improve the young talent while still bringing
Of course
in
you can.
top of the line, players at the same time. I do think there is a balance that can be struck, but I might be not reading Eugene's comment maybe in the best way here. But I do think there is a balance that can be struck.
No, look, and this is sort of like a conversation I was having with Sean on Big Up there at the weekend. Sean sort of said, at the time that, we've tried the win now approach. And I sort of made the point, in terms of the managers, but when you look at the recruitment we brought in underneath them, we never actually went fully that way. Now you look at a lot of the recruitment we're making now, we're making a lot of young signings and bringing in the odd experienced player, but the experienced player we're bringing in is a guy that's experienced down the bottom half of the table and nowhere near at the top level of football, which is what we sort of need and what we've lacked on the pitch. But at the end of the day, a good club will focus on the first team and bring what you need in, but also have one eye on the future. You should always have one eye on the future. Ideally, what you don't want to do is spend £80 million every time you want to bring a player. Sometimes you want to be able to turn to the academy and go, fuck me, what an investment. 250,000. Let's bring him in. Absolutely brilliant. Ready to go. What we need. You should always have one idea on the future. But the problem is, we half-ass everything we do. We never really fully trust what we're trying to do. Like, you bring in Jose Mourinho, you go and buy Ryan Sessegnon and Joe Rodon. I'm not being funny. Jose Mourinho probably didn't even know who they were until we brought them to his attention. You look at some of the signings under Conte, the same thing. Some of the signings under Ange Postecoglou, some of it's been the same thing. Danny Rose spoke about years ago, having the Google players that we're bringing in. It's a joke.
Yeah. I think Eugene is saying that he's actually given up on us striking that balance, perfectly.
Oh, yeah,
He's saying
I
just
get
pick
that.
one or the other and just stick with it because Spurs are incapable of being able to strike that balance. That's a fair point, Eugene, to be honest. I've actually made that point about maybe the next manager that we bring in, if Ange is to go, that maybe we just have to suck it up and bring in a manager that can handle, probably being let short in terms of recruitment and just working with the players that he has. We keep trying to bring in guys that are in a way idealists, sort of have their way of playing and their way of playing only. Maybe we just need a guy that can sort of handle whatever sort of shit sandwich he's being given and can sort of turn it into something. And that's, again, sort of a sad state of affairs that we have to, kind of think about it that way, that we're just giving up on Spurs doing it the proper way. Very good point there, Eugene. And like I said, I had a feeling that maybe I wasn't, giving you the total justice on that.
No, 100%. I can fully understand where Eugene's coming from. I think most Spurs fans are like that. But I think, in terms of the direction we're heading in, whether we like it or not, it was made clear in that financial statement. We're going to keep going along with the same recruitment that we've been making. We ain't going to change tack in that. So, take what you will from it there, Eugene. But also, I want to say I'm not digging out Sean in my point now. I'm just saying it was a fascinating conversation we were having on the Big Up Network. It was sort of like, because before I would have agreed with Sean, but then I just had an epiphany. It's like, yeah, one side we did, but in terms of recruitment, we didn't match it. But it was a great conversation. Big up, Shawnee.
Sam is telling us that, he's willing to stick around for some of the members' questions. Big Mike, want to say great service from you, sir. I thought it was a fabulous. I don't think it's your debut. I think you've been on some panel shows with us before, but it's been a while. So just want to say thank you, my man. If you want to stick around with these members' comments, you're certainly welcome to, but we can also let you go now and let you go with the rest of your evening if you would like.
I don't mind, to be honest with you. It's up to you guys. I can spare another sort of 10, 20 minutes or so if that helps.
Yeah.
Or whatever you prefer, man. Just giving you the chance here. I can bring it up on screen, Dave, if you like. Or thanks for zooming in. No, it seems like you got it here. We'll start off first with Eddie's. I think Sam wanted to touch on this. Who's to blame for the culture at Spurs? The fans, the managers, Levy, Lewis. It just seems like it's a never-ending toxic cycle at Spurs. Personally, I think everyone is a little to blame about the culture at Spurs, also contributing one way or another. Everyone get over to Big Up for the Forest United game and show these guys support. I'll also be there chatting and talking food. So if you want to see a delusional Aussie, come to Big Up. Eddie, very, very kind of you, man. You've been very good to me as well as Dave over there. And thanks for popping in on the fan show yesterday. And anybody want to answer, Eddie, on that one for who's the most to blame for
Let's have
Spurs?
a
And
big
do you
night
agree
take
with
that
Eddie that maybe it's everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the politician's answer, right? That everyone's a little bit to blame. But I think that you can kind of it all kind of stems from the top, whether that's Lewis, whether that's Levy, whether it's Enoch. It's that umbrella of the hierarchy that have failed the fans to a point where we've gone from being probably the most unified that we ever were under Pochettino. You know, everyone kind of fighting for the same and cheering for the same sort of things. We reached the peak. We plateaued, and then
Now
some
everyone's
Spurs
disillusioned.
fans,
Yeah.
some Spurs fans went one way and some went another, and then you get the what do they call them, like the Ange sexuals that will vehemently fight one way. You have the people who want to put Ange's head on a pike, going another way, and they're basically fighting each other, and the disharmony in the fan base. I think as much as when Michael Dawson made those comments about or whoever it was about it's hard for the players when the fans are like upset in the stadium. As much as those were club plant comments, I'm sure there is some truth to it, and I think everyone can kind of agree with that. So as much as I'd say it's probably 80% on, maybe even more on Levy and the like. The fans are obviously their disharmony is causing some sort of strife as well.
I'm in agreement that it starts at the top, and I think it is mostly the top, to be honest, because Levy, what he's done is that he's found a way to force players to feel pretty comfortable, sticking around at the club because they know that the manager is often the one that gets given the most blame and ends up sort of taking the hit first, instead of showing confidence and showing faith towards a manager by bringing in, of course, top quality players to see out their project. But then as well, when it comes to, ending up sacking them early, it kind of sort of gives the players that feeling that no matter how bad things get, that they're not going to be the ones to go first, that it's usually going to be the manager, which has led to a culture where players have felt like, they can outlast the manager. We saw Daniel Levy, or not Daniel Levy, we saw Ben Davis, right, go up to Daniel Levy's office to complain about Nuno, saying he wasn't getting playing time and he was sick of being in the B team and that sort of thing. Like, that just stinks of a culture where the players feel far too comfortable. They have no real fear of the authority, from the manager, and they seem to sort of believe that the ownership is going to be the ones to save them. And now we as fans have to sort of balance. I think the fans, I've said this a million times, I don't think fans really are ever to blame, because we always just continue to show up every single season, every single game, and give our hard-earned money, to this club. But the fans have then had to interpret that and had to deal with that. They have to balance, the fact that the managers are usually the ones that are given the blame. The players are the ones that end up sticking around longer. The ownership isn't going anywhere. They seem to continue just to operate the same way without any real sort of change in their minds. And that's led to fans then sort of having to fight each other and having to try to make sense of in a way, batshit football club, right? And, I don't really think then the fans are to blame in that case.
Look, I understand, where people say, everyone needs to take a slice of the pie. Honestly, I just think that's some new age utopia bullshit, to be quite frank. If you actually want the problems ironed out, the blame starts somewhere. If you want to say the fans have to take a piece of the blame, the fans are only reacting off what the players, the manager, and the owner produces. You want to say the players have to take blame, they're only reacting off what the manager asked them to do and the culture that's been allowed to set in around Tottenham. You want the manager to take the blame. At the end of the day, he can only work with the tools that he's given. If you really want to start fixing it, you've got to pinpoint the blame somewhere and start somewhere. And the biggest part of the blame is the ownership. At the end of the day, everyone has families, everyone has partners or people that they live with. You, as the man of the house, you set the tone of your house. You set the tone of what flies, what doesn't fly, and that's the way it should be, in terms of your football ownership as well. You own a business or anything else. You dictate what flies and what you don't tolerate. It's that simple. So for me, I can't get with this. Everyone needs to take a piece of the pie. Once you do that, where does it stop? You start with the biggest problem first, and then if there's still fans out there being dicks, even though things are being sorted, then you go to that problem. But what you can't do is sit there and get everyone into the room. I take part of the blame, you take a part of the blame, also you. Where does it stop? It turns into one big jerking circle where everyone's admitting, oh yeah, I'm a part of the blame, but nothing actually gets fucking sorted. Start with the biggest problem, and I think you'll find everything else down apart from that will start ironing itself out once the main problem is sorted out.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Dave. 100%. I agree with that. Mike, you can take some of these with me. Dropkick Your Teacher saying Levy confirmed Ange is only here because of Europe. If we do go out against Frankfurt, do you think it happens in Frankfurt, or will they give him the weekend? Basically, do you think Ange is going to go if we can't get the job done against Frankfurt?
I think no matter what, Ange will stay to the end of the season. I just think it makes economic sense financially for Levy. He knows all about the money. So I just can't see Ange being sacked unless it's just a terrible turnout, like, 10-2 on aggregate against, we get absolutely pummeled out. So no, I don't think Ange's going anywhere this side of the season. But obviously during the break will be very interesting during the summer. Even if we do win, I still think there'll be rumours circling around for his job. I think he's under a lot of pressure. But I think if Andrew's going to get sacked mid-season, I just think it would have already happened. I was very surprised to see him here after the Everton game and then the Leicester game after. Once I saw he was still here, I'm pretty much convinced that as long as we don't get battered out of Europa, I think he will pretty much remain in position at least until summer. And then, we'll have to see what happens after that.
I think Dave and I said kind of something similar as well. We need a Seamus Coleman character. What's one player you would like to bring in to add to that? Anybody have any sort of leadership-like characters that they're thinking that we could bring into the team that could change the culture inside at least the dressing room? Anybody? I'm struggling at the moment. To
That's
think of
tough.
it's harder to come by. nowadays.
Honestly, I don't think you
Coleman.
even need to look just on that quickly. I don't even think you need to look for certain characteristics. I think if someone has the drive to win and the drive to be the best, that's a natural leader, and people naturally start following that to a certain degree.
So just bring in more winners, guys that actually have that competitive ambition, I think is your answer then, Artist T. What do you make of the Tyler Dibbling links? This just adds to us constantly bringing in relegation fodder. I mean, the fact that it's being quoted around 100 million pounds is a little ridiculous here's the one thing about if Southampton are actually being serious and are quoting, 100 million pounds, best of luck to them because they are headed back to the championship. So you would think that they would maybe think about, selling him for a more reasonable price to maybe give themselves that opportunity to get back to, the Premier League. Because if they don't, we know how damaging that can be to a club is where if you get promoted and then get brought back down, but then don't make it back up the next season, I think you really hurt yourself. Is Tyler Dibbling really going to carry them back to a promotion campaign? I'm not sure, but that's what I would say. I don't want him personally. I don't want him personally, but what do you think of the links? Sounds like you want to come in.
I just wanted to say, obviously they rejected a 55 mil bid from us, didn't they, last season, right? Didn't we go in for him in the Jan or whatever it was? So, they rejected that bid. So maybe they do value him closer to 100 mil. But also a lot of clubs are sniffing around, right? Isn't it like United, Chelsea, some top clubs I was seeing when I was reading the other day. So maybe there is a talent there. But I agree with you. I don't think they necessarily need him to bounce straight back up with the parachute money as well. But, probably Southampton are in a good financial position. Like maybe they just don't need to sell him for cheap. Maybe he's got 4 years left of his contract. They can just say, look, it's 100 mil or whatever we'll take. I'm sure he'll be a good asset in the Championship. So
I'm also just worried, are we making the same mistakes we've made, over the last couple of years since replacing Kane? James Maddison, bought from a relegated Leicester. Richarlison, a battling relegation every year from Everton. Udabur from a Burnley. Solanke from a Bournemouth who have since kicked down since they've sold them, who were used to fighting down the bottom half of the table. We brought in a lot of relegation fodder, and we wonder why we're so lackluster going forward. I mean,
how are we going to get the players from Villa or Bournemouth at the moment? Why would anyone from Nottingham Forest leave to come to Tottenham next season?
The point is, you don't need to go to Southampton to get Tyler Dibbling. There's other clubs around Europe that you can go to performing at a high level with better players. At the end of the day, I had to laugh. I seen, there was a rumor out over the international break. 100 million for Tyler Diblin. I've seen people debating over. I'm sitting there laughing. I'm like, when was the last £100 million? We never bought £100 million player. No point in even debating over it. We're never, ever paying that for Tyler Diblin. 60, 65 million, I think it becomes believable. But 100 million, honestly, they're just doing it to get you to click and give you something to talk about. That's all they're doing. They know. Even the journalist is probably laughing when he done that. He's like, 100 million. Let's see if Tottenham fans will click on this. We're taking the piss out. Honestly, going after someone like Tyler Diblin, I think you're going to make the same mistakes we made this season. The reality is they were all playing at relegation clubs. And the reason why they got relegated is because a lot of times they weren't good enough going forward. They couldn't score the goals you need to keep you in the league. So why do we keep going after them? We saw the world's best striker. We've gone from one extreme, having the world's best striker, to buying all relegation candidate players. I mean, fuck me. Even middle of the road will do. Just show more ambition. Like Postecoglou spoke this season. We have a lack of leadership within the group. No shit, Sherlock. You bought young. Obviously, you're going to have a lack of leaders. So why are we going to keep making the same mistakes? Surely there's a player out there around 25, 26 years of age you can get for 60, 65 million that'll come in and make a massive difference in this forward line.
At least has also experience, playing at a more competitive, higher level as well, let alone the experience question. Let's say this does happen. If we get knocked out of Europe and stick with Ange into next season, what do you think the reaction will be, and how do you see next season playing out? I say we would look worse since players will likely leave. I think you've answered your question there, Artist T, to an extent. And personally, I just don't think that's happening. I think, if Ange does get knocked out of Europe, potentially they give him the rest of the season, but I don't see him, playing into next season personally. Anybody disagree with me there?
No, what I will say is if they do get, want Ange in the dugout for next season, I think whether Spurs fans like it or not, a lot of us have asked in the past, stick by a manager that you believe in. And if they bring him into next season, then I think, I'll sit behind it and I'll give him the start of next season or the first couple of months of next season and see where it goes. I'm not going to sit here and moan about. At the end of the day, I've just said to the club, even if you are going through tough times, stick by a manager so that we can start coming out the right end of it. So if they do back it, I think as fans, you've got to start giving them the start of next season and see where it goes, regardless of your preconceived opinion, personally.
And lastly, what's everyone having for dinner? Sam, I'll go to you first on this one. Thanks for yet again another brilliant shift. Thanks for making yourself available this evening. I have your Twitter link in here, so please everybody follow Sam over on Twitter and do give him some love, because I think he deserves some sort of follow, because he does put in a great shift with us, week in, week out. But Sam, what's the dinner plan? And anything else you wanted to say?
Well, if you guys know me, I'm a creature of habit, and Tuesdays are some sort of fish, maybe a fish fingers with some mashed potatoes and some sweet corn.
It's not a Dave meal, I'll tell you that.
It's just easy, finish 20 minutes in the oven, and you're done. Maybe a little ice cold Diet Coke on the side, Dave. I know you're a fan.
Yeah.
And we go from there. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I feel like this has been a really good show, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It's been a pleasure with you streaming with your mic for the first time.
Thank you.
Appreciate coming on all the time with the boys as we do. And yeah, if you want to hop over to my Twitter, I've been quite snarky recently, actually. A lot of sarcasm in my tweets. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to end all my tweets with Coy's Samuel now as well, as a little homage to the man at the top. But yeah, follow me over. If not, I don't really care.
Just want to say Sam's been putting in a great shift with us. I think he's been putting in some great shows as well. I thought this was a really good combo and a really great show. And that's also thanks to you, Mike. Any final words or anything that you wanted to plug, or just want to say, man, thank you. I thought you did a great shift tonight. And thanks for filling in, and would love to have you on more often.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, it's been a pleasure. Obviously, great to see you as well, Sam. Thanks for the kind words. I'll just end it with the same way I always end it, which is try and be positive going into Thursday. Let's support the boys. Let's get the win. Let's get the momentum, and let's try and believe. Because look, if we can pull off the unthinkable this season, I'll be the first one to say, look, I'm going to buy the shirt. I'm going to buy all the merch. Levy, this is a message to you, yeah? If you pull it off, yeah, I'm going to buy the stuff, yeah? Because we ain't won since 2008. Yeah, I'm trying to celebrate with my dad, so please, let's get it done, boys. Come on, do it for us, yeah?
Give me
the reason to get the merch this year. But as always, thanks to the people supporting the community. Love for the love. Smash a like, subscribe, get the memberships, get it done. get over to Sam, support him as well. Yeah, I know he said he doesn't care, but get on there and support him. Yeah, 100%. That's what I got to say to everyone. So love for the love. I'll be back soon, okay?
Lastly, what's for dinner there tonight, Big Mike?
I'm not going to lie, it's a bit boring on my side. Look, I'm a bit of a chicken and rice guy at the moment. Yeah, I'm just keeping it simple.
Healthy.
You know, 2 chicken breasts, that's it, man. Get the protein in, get the creatine in, and we just keep it moving. That's what we try and do out here. So, yeah, nothing, a bit simple for me.
Like that on there? Any sauce?
No, I'm not gonna lie, man. Nothing too, you know, the sauces, a bit too much sugar. I'm not gonna lie, it's very boring over here at the moment, man. Maybe a bit of sauce from the salad dressing, some honey and mustard, but you know, we keep it moving, man. That's
why Big Mike is so happy and smiling, because he eats right, you know, it's key.
Listen, you know what? It feels good when you do have a treat. It's even better. It's more rewarding. You know what I mean? Friday's coming up, so probably a little work thing there. You know what I mean? But yeah, man.
There you go. Well, hopefully you get to enjoy yourself on the weekends. But man, that's a healthy meal. You'd be fit in no time. Dave.
Listen.
Dave, anything? Dinner plans for you, Dave? And yeah, after this, by the way, everybody follow us over to the Big Up stream. It's pinned at the top of the chat. It's happening in a couple of minutes' time. Just something to take our mind off of Spurs, or we can continue the conversation. You could sort of treat it like a fan show, really, if you guys would like. And come on screen and join me. And Dave will be joining about halfway through as well, I believe. And yeah, we just sit down, relax, and just sort of watch a Premier League game on in the background. But Dave, what are your dinner plans, sir?
So I've got I have a chicken salad chia batter with a handful of chips and a bit of side salad. You know, compromise. You know, cut back the chips and do the other half with salad. You know, get there, eventually losing weight. So yeah, that's what my dinner plans is. But I'm not gonna lie, I do have a custard donut to wash it down with dessert later on with a nice cup of tea. So, you know, yeah, that's what I've got stored for the evening.
Well done. I actually am going to go have dinner over at my parents' place. So I have no idea what's on the menu, nice. But I will be a good boy and we'll take whatever they have on offer. I do have, though, for desserts, some lovely Japanese kind of desserts, you know, kind of these little wafer sort of ice creams I'm looking forward to tonight. Artist tea. But final things, everybody, please follow us over to that stream. Happen in about a couple of minutes' time. So grab a drink, grab a bite to eat. If it's dinner time for you, feel free to grab some dinner and join us for it. Premier League is back this week. We'll be doing one tonight, and we'll be doing one tomorrow as well for some Premier League action. So join us over there. And thanks for a great show. Thanks for all the support as well, from Levy Towers to Super Spurs, Blaine, Artist T, Eugene, Shawnee Maddox, Wayne Bonner, and Paul Connor. Thanks for all the member milestones. Thanks for everybody that joined us tonight. And I really did think this was a great show and a great convo. So anybody watching this back, smash the like button as well, please. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. And we'll see you all for, the stream just in a couple minutes time. But then also we'll see you all for the match day festivities on Thursday. Big week, big weeks ahead. And we'll see what Spurs are made of.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Of course.
Great challenge.